Welcome back to another episode of Smart Takes. I am Kristen Bankert. I am a creative director here at St. John, and joining me is the beautiful Miss Jen Harmon. She leads our restaurant practice for St. John and Store by Store. Hi, Miss Jen.
Hi, I'm so glad to be back with you. This is always fun to do. It's always a great conversation.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yes, well, we are we're getting into the fourth quarter very soon. So that means fall is coming, which I'm ready for some cool weather.
Oh my gosh, me too. I can't wait for some crisp fall. Of course, we're already in football, but it doesn't feel like football weather.
No, I made pumpkin bread this weekend just so I'd feel like I was part of the season. I'm trying to will some cool weather.
You know, they said that pumpkin bread and pumpkin products at Starbucks blew through the roof because of just the day that they offered it on. They introduced it on a Tuesday.
Really?
And they said they've had their biggest response to it by the day of the week. I don't know why that is. Maybe because people found out about it and then they had 2 or 3 days before it hit the weekend, and then the weekend went crazy. Apparently they have introduced it before on Thursday, and they've had less success. Although when pumpkin spice comes out in any form or fashion at any store, it usually goes through the roof in the fall.
Yes.
But this is Starbucks' most successful roll.
All right. Well, that's a good little fun fact.
Yes, fun fact. And maybe it'll bring us some cooler weather.
Yeah.
That could be good.
Well, today we are going to talk about loyalty, restaurant loyalty with their customers, and why it's so important. So, let's talk briefly about where we are economy-wise. How are people feeling about their money? Right. Where are they spending? How are they spending? What's the state of the state there?
Well, I think it's a great question, and nobody's exactly able to answer it. You can watch the news and turn to 3 or 4 different anchors, and you're not going to hear the same story. But the truth is, I think people feel like it's stabilizing, and that though the prices are still extremely high, they're probably not coming down, but they're not continuing to rise as fast as they were for a while. I think that they are still beginning in that beginning stage of feeling like they need to hold back a little bit on some of their choices, and are a little more careful about where they eat, particularly, and how often they eat out, and where they're choosing to go. And just like we knew it would happen, the fine dining people are dropping down to the more, less fine, more casual, and the casuals are dropping down the fast casuals.
Right.
And we talked about this before, and the real winners, as far as the immediate sales, is usually QSR when things are kind of tough.
I think we need to take a step back and kind of talk about where we are with the economy. I feel like, we're coming either in or out of or resuming this, talk of inflation or recession, but, where are we in terms of that and how people are spending their money specifically at restaurants?
Right. Well, it's a great question, and everybody pretty much knows the answer, because everybody is spending, and they're still continuing to go out to eat, and they may have made different choices than they have in the past. But the economy is definitely it's stabilizing, I would say. You're not seeing as many incredible increases in the cost of goods and services. And so restaurants have sort of stabilized their price increases. They're not reducing them, certainly, and nobody in retail is reducing their prices, but they are trying to hold the line. And for a while there, about every menu printing, and there were many menu printings, people were increasing prices, brands were increasing prices, quarterly, if not even faster than that. So I think what we're seeing is a stabilizing, somewhat of a feeling that things are still very high, and we're going to be very choosy about where we eat. We're going to be choosy with what we purchase. We're going to try to find the best deal, the best value, but we also want to have a certain experience. And so all of those things go into that mindset. I do think that everybody, including every politician, no matter which side you're on, recognizes that the economy is a critical issue, and it's been very unpredictable. So right now, I would say restaurant dining is definitely in sort of a state of flux in trying to find their guests and retain them.
So it's interesting, as we kind of get into the loyalty part, because we were talking earlier with a coworker here, and she was saying, she buys a certain product, but now it's gotten to the point where it's so exorbitant. The loyalty she had for the store where she would get it, she's now transferred to another store because she can get it less expensively. So are people who have their favorite restaurants, are they willing to stick out those price increases because they love the restaurant so much, or are they willing to go somewhere else because they can get something comparable or maybe a little less comparable but for less money?
I mean, I think that's actually a great question because I think what we're seeing is the loyal guest in most cases, restaurant brands are retaining those loyal guests.
Okay.
They are, looking for the value. They are looking for the food they can count on. They're looking for the delivery on the promise. Mm-hmm. They're looking for an expected price. They don't want to pay more every single time they come in. And like we said, that's probably not happening like it was, for the last 2 years. So what we're seeing is sort of a digging in. Maybe they're not going to their favorite restaurant as often. Mm. And maybe they're sometimes trading down from one category to another. Maybe going from a casual to fast casual and still wanting a dine-in experience, but are willing to get up in a line and wait for their food. And many of them are going from a fast casual down to a QSR because that is always going to have a better value deal. But I think they're still choosing, no matter what category, they're still choosing based on loyalty, on brands they know will deliver a good product and something that they really want. Okay. I mean, they don't want to just trade down to get something that's not a great experience.
Right.
Whatever, and however they define that.
So are restaurants right now more concerned with keeping their loyal customers happy over growth, getting new customers? Where are they putting their efforts right now?
I mean, I think that's a great question also, because what I'm seeing is that many restaurants are engineering the plate around the value. Okay. So whether it's the plate is a box that goes in a bag, or whether the plate is a full plate that you order and either take out or sit down with silverware and a bowl and all those kind of things, people are making the choice to enjoy their meal.
What are restaurants doing to retain their loyal customers? Given that the situation is fluid, that they could easily go up or down or, not come as often, what are they doing to keep them coming back to their restaurant?
I think that great brands, and there are a lot of great brands out there, are working really hard to deliver on that promise. So what that guest is expecting to receive, that value, that hot food, that cold food, the consistency, the experience, even if it's just a to-go experience, that it's bagged well when they get home. It's not, the bag's not ripping.
It's right.
It's exactly as ordered.
Yeah.
It's what they expected. Even if they, are paying more now, that's probably more important than it ever has been before, because the more you pay, the more you want it to be right.
Right. You have a higher expectation.
You have a higher expectation. And you asked a little earlier, and we've talked about this many times, about growth at the restaurant level and what is growth and how can you drive incremental growth. So for years, we would talk about driving growth with sales, and that's a big way to drive growth, right? But we've been taking price increases for the last 2 years. And so there really isn't any more price increase to take, even though the cost of goods is up. So smart restaurateurs are, engineering their plates, they're engineering their to-go boxes, they're engineering a value meal.
What does that mean when you say engineering? What do you mean?
That's a great question as well. That is it's a certain amount of profit that they need to make in every meal.
Okay.
And it is making sure that the value of what's included in that meal is still worth the amount of money that the guest is paying. So they can play with that a little bit, they can reduce the meat, for example, a little bit by an ounce or something, and then the price is relatively affordable still. They can reduce that a bit. They can add other things to the plate that are less expensive, like incremental French fries or onion rings or something that is a nice add-on, but and it drives more profit for them, but it also has a great value. Some of the $5 meals or the biggie bags. They're all the things where you get selection and choice, but they're made to make sure they make a profit on the restaurant side, and the
Sure.
guest feels like it's a value. So I think the guest is probably looking for that value now more than they have ever looked for it before, and are maybe making a choice to leave somebody that they would normally be very loyal to because they can't afford to eat there as often or maybe at all.
Right. So what other things, kind of engineering, making it feel like even though you're paying more, you're maybe getting more, maybe more of different things. That's a great point. The engineering of the plate. What are some other ways that restaurants are trying to retain loyal guests? Those rewards programs are always such a big thing. I know I subscribe to a handful of them, and I really only subscribe to the ones that I actually feel like I'm getting rewarded. Chick-fil-A does a fantastic job. I feel like I'm constantly getting some kind of little carrot or reward. I
Right.
come in for a free sandwich, or Starbucks when I see my stars kind of add up. So are loyalty programs like thriving? Are they changing?
I mean, I think they're thriving for people who really enjoy the rewards and realize that the more that they eat with that particular establishment, that they're going to, get more benefits out of that, and they're going to get more rewards. And I think that's a great way. So the rewards and the apps and tracking your, the many different experiences and visits that you make with that particular restaurant, and at the end of it all being rewarded with a free meal or with a free drink or with something incremental dessert or something like that, maybe being recognized on your birthday. All of those are great ways to keep your guests loyal and to really appeal to your guests. For people that like apps, for people that don't like apps, and there's lots of them,
Sure.
they're more about the delivery on the promise, what they expect to get for what they're paying. And I think the value pricing is critical, but it doesn't need to be a dollar amount value. It doesn't need to be a dollar menu, rather. It doesn't need to be something cheap. It doesn't need to be discounted. It just needs to be built to be fair to the restaurant, but also fair to the guest. And I think my biggest concern for restaurants right now, given the economy, is that people are going to trade down and they may not trade back up. They might go from a fast casual experience to a quick service, and for 6 months not really go back to a fast casual, and the same for casual to fast, and the same for fine to casual. I think we're seeing some of that right now, and even some of the strongest restaurants are realizing that they're not driving as much traffic. Traffic is key right now because obviously we're paying a lot
Sure.
for the food, so the sales appear to be up even though they're not. But traffic is critical, and that loyalty, however you define loyalty, that loyalty is what will see you through the next 6 to 12 months.
So what are some interesting ways that you're seeing restaurants try to drive traffic, new traffic, or more frequent visits, whether from new customers or existing customers, loyal customers?
I think one of the things that they're doing is they're looking at their users, they're looking at their base, whether they are members of their loyalty app or not, and they're looking at where they're coming from, and they're going out and re-inviting them in. So they're sending digital messages straight to their home and telling them they've missed them or thanking them for a recent visit. They're really saying, I know you, I appreciate you, we want you back in the door. We've always said you have to invite your guests
Sure.
back in.
Are they inviting them back with an offer, or just is it enough to just acknowledge, like, we know you, we know that you haven't been here in a while, please come back?
I think it can be an offer, and I think that moves certain people. Sometimes it's new promotion, it might be a new product, it might be bringing something back that everybody had loved and they're going to bring it back again. I think it's just about really reminding them that they've had a great time there before, they had a great experience, even if it's a to-go or delivery, that they really enjoyed it the last time they had it. So I would say that, to me, proximity marketing and going out there and finding people that absolutely are your guests, whether they're registered as a loyalty member or not, and finding them, re-inviting them back in, and then looking in those same neighborhoods for people just like them and inviting them in. So that's the way you can really jump on loyalty, which is outside of the apps. That's how you can, to your point, people know their guests. Actually, restaurant brands are very savvy. They know that, 50% of them are driven by an offer, and 25% of them are driven by new promotions or bringing back something with pumpkin spice.
Right.
And then 25% are harder. They're more nebulous. It's more difficult to see what moves them in. But everybody needs to be reminded that you're there and that you had a great experience there and that you want them to come back again. So I think that's one of the biggest things you can do, and that's easy.
Sure.
And I would imagine most people are doing that. I think discounting is not a good idea.
Oh, okay. Why?
Because when you discount your product, when somebody thinks that that plate is normally 10, but we're for a short period of time only, give it to you for $7.99, I think that cheapens the value of the $10 meal. You really probably never really want to go back to it.
Well, that's true. We get very used to that the coupons, discounts at Bed Bath and Beyond. No one goes in without, RIP Bed Bath and Beyond, but without that 20% off coupon, and so you're never going to pay full price because it's always 20% off.
Or you're going to be annoyed, so you won't go back.
Exactly. So why not just make everything 20% off and just keep it there? So it's a fine line between feeling like you're getting a deal and then also cheapening what the offer is, because it is hard to go back if, then you start to value at the lesser price. So
I completely agree. I mean, I think that an occasional coupon for a meal or an item of their choice for a better deal occasionally,
like as a loyalty reward, because then it doesn't feel like it's a mass offer. It feels like something special for you, Jen, for your anniversary, for your birthday, for being a loyal customer. Please come in and enjoy this, whatever. Right.
And even then, I love free. I've always loved free. I'm a big believer in the free strategy. It doesn't have to be a lot.
Right, no.
And I also like free not to necessarily have a purchase required.
Sure.
People generally not go to a drive-thru even to get a Coke that's free unless they buy fries with it. And you just really diminish and kind of cheapen your offer, your what you're considering sort of a prize to them. So I think you have to be very careful. I mean, it's a time when it's going to take a lot of trial. And, I would assume that a lot of restaurant brands are doing a lot of research to try to understand what their guest is looking for. If they look at their menu mix and really see what's driving the most usage, what people really love, what they really prefer about their restaurant. And those are sort of sacred cows you don't touch.
Sure.
And then look at, is there a variation on those things? Is there something different, a smaller portion you could offer for a little less money to get them in more often?
Right.
Or for a smaller appetite? I mean, there's just a lot of fun ways that you can deliver that value without cheapening your brand by discounting it.
What is one thing a restaurant can do in their in dining experience to build and retain loyalty? What would that be?
I think that's a good way to look at loyalty in general, because if you're tapping into your apps and you're building great promotions and you're delivering on your promise and you're, looking at ways to create meals that are not as expensive as some of your others, for options for people who don't want to have to spend the full price, but without discounting, without cheapening your product. I think the other thing you can do is, if you have a dine-in environment where you have people sitting down, you can go around in your dining room and you can allow people to try things. You can let them try. If you've got amazing sauces, you can let them try a flight of sauces. If you've got amazing brownies and you don't sell very many, you can cut them up into small pieces and, offer them to every table as just a little taste to see if you can get them interested. Things that are just a surprise and delight are a great way to make people feel really special at the restaurant level.
Okay.
I think you can do the same thing in a to-go bag or in a pickup service. You can also give them them a card that allows them to come back for a free cup of coffee or a free dessert. You know, people that are spending a lot of money with you, and you could just say thank you so much for your order. We were so glad to do it. You can bring it out, or you can do it in the window, and you can put it in your DoorDash bags or whatever. I think small surprises like that, unexpected surprises, they don't have to be, there's some to be reason behind them. I think it's a huge way to make a big difference. People feel very valued by that.
Sure.
And often they don't even take advantage of it, but they just feel good that you gave it to them.
Right.
So
they appreciate the sentiment.
it's a lot about what is courteous and
Yes.
kind and friendly.
Yes.
And how would you do it if you were in your own dining room?
Right. Well, thank you so much. It's been so great talking to you
It's
again
so
about
great talking to
this.
you.
I'm very loyal to you.
I'm very loyal to you. And I'm actually very loyal to the restaurant industry. I feel like they're really in a tough time right now. And they have hurdled so many difficult things,
Sure.
from staffing to food prices increasing to food running out, you know, during COVID. And the ones that are surviving are going to be great. I absolutely believe it. It's just going to be another probably 6 to maybe 18 months of what I would consider unpredictable.
A little uncomfortable,
A little
unpredictable.
uncomfortable, but I think they'll make it.
Okay. Well, it's good to talk to you. We'll
It's
talk
great to
again
talk
soon.
to you. Okay.
All right.
I'll look forward to it.
Bye.
Bye.